Well, folks, here we again for the weekly forecast. Last week we talked about an upper air trough moving across the northern plains that drank a surface cold front through the state of Nebraska and generates some widespread thunderstorm activity, particularly across the eastern half of the state. Well, that model's got it pretty close to accurate in terms of where the thunderstorm activity developed. We had very heavy precipitation localized in portions of north central, northeast, and east central Nebraska. Total storm event precipitation was anywhere from 2 to upwards of 5 inches across these regions. Now there were some pockets of lesser amounts, and particularly as you move toward western Nebraska, the precipitation totals dropped off rather dramatically. Southwestern Nebraska and the southern panhandle were the big losers in terms of precipitation. Although there's some light moisture reported, there was nothing significant. That precipitation shield also moved across the northern Corn Belt and portions of the eastern Corn Belt, where we've seen very heavy precipitation as the system progressed toward the eastern United States. Now, we did see a cool trend develop during the midweek period. The models actually were projecting that to occur toward the end of the week instead of the midweek period, so they were off in terms of the temperatures. But now we have that drying trend starting to give way to another frontal boundary moving across the northern plains that is starting to shift the cold front through the state today. So we would expect as we go through this week, cooler temperatures will start to invade the region once again before we've seen a gradual warm up as we go to next week. So let's take a look at the upper air models and see how this is all going to play out. Here's our system moving across the northern plains. The surface front has already moved through northwestern Nebraska, and as the day progresses, it will move southeastward through the state. So we would expect to see some thunderstorm generation during the afternoon hours across eastern Nebraska, and then that system will move toward the Great Lakes during the overnight hours, and the precipitation should come to an end. So by the time we get into tomorrow, we'll start to see high pressure building across the western United States. Here's that trough entering the western Great Lakes region, so we'll be in a northwest flow in the eastern Nebraska, and there might be an isolated thunderstorm pop up, but right now the models are keeping most of the moisture to our east, and we'll start to see that cool air invading eastern Nebraska, and that'll last a day or two. As we get into Monday, you'll see that we're still seeing that ridge building up, but we're still in a northwest flow across eastern Nebraska. That's going to let some of that cool air into our region, but we're not talking about any precipitation. As we get into Monday, the ridge starts to, or Tuesday, excuse me, the ridge starts to shift toward the east, and we'll start to see a warmer pattern developing across the western part of the state. Looks like there'll be pretty much no precipitation. In fact, we'd be hard pressed to find any clouds on Tuesday. As we get into Wednesday, that ridge on the center of it starts to shift into central Texas. That will bring warmer air to the entire state. There is a little trough moving across the northern plains, and it does look like it will generate some thunderstorm activity, but it looks like it's going to be to the north of Nebraska. But on Thursday, we are going to start to see a southwest flow as that ridge starts to push even farther eastward, and that's going to bring some of the monsoon moisture up over top of the ridge. In conjunction with this trough moving out of the Pacific Northwest, we might actually start to generate some thunderstorm activity across western Nebraska Thursday afternoon, but more importantly, as we get into Friday, that trough is going to start to push across the northern plains and generate some thunderstorm activity widespread across portions of northwest and western Nebraska, and then that would fill in toward eastern Nebraska as we get into next weekend. So let's take a look at the temperature forecast. As you can see that we are going to see warm across western Nebraska as we go into the middle of next week, but that cold front will move through and impact our temperatures this weekend with some scattered thunderstorm activity on Saturday. And then we have just slight chances of thunderstorm activity Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday across portions of the state as we see some energy moving around that trough. And then more importantly, the warmer trend starts to continue into next week. Now, as we go into the 8 to 14 day forecast, that warm temperature remains in place. This is for next Thursday through the following Tuesday. And in terms of precipitation, we'll see that the activity remains across the northern plains. Now, more importantly, as we go into the 30-day forecast for the month of September, we're seeing a cool trend from the southern plains through the central United States. In terms of precipitation, widespread area of above normal precipitation. And as we go into the 90-day forecast for September through November, below normal temperatures to our south. And in terms of precipitation, widespread area of precipitation. This could be a problem when it comes time for harvest.